What's up, guys? Brady here, coming at you with a review of the new Shinedown album 8, released a couple weeks ago now, May 28th. 6 singles in the making, a year and a half since that first double single dropped back in January of last year. And this album is 18 tracks. It's basically a double album, totaling just over an hour in full runtime. I had no idea what to expect going into this record, even listening to the singles, because with Shinedown's last array of albums, they haven't been that great to me. They've done a lot of pop pandering, some conceptual stuff that doesn't totally work for me, but they're perfectly capable of writing some catchy hard rock songs. Brent Smith is a great vocalist. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend checking out the Shinedown album ranking that I posted, I think a couple weeks ago now. That might just give some context and some background info on my history with the band, which I do have a long history with them. I grew up on albums like Leave a Whisper and Sound of Madness and Amaryllis. But yeah, let's get right into this album. And I'm going to start with probably the thing that frustrates me the most with this record, aside from the obnoxiously long runtime, and that is the production. The band has never sounded so thin in their entire discography like they do on this record. Even on the more pop-leaning records like Planet Zero and Threat to Survival, the heavier cuts on that record at least had some grit to them. The guitar tone at least had a little bit of muscle behind it. I mean, you hear it on a track like No Sleep Tonight, or even Cut the Cord from Threat to Survival. Not on this record. The band traded all of their aggression and their grit for streamlined, pop-pandering, lightweight guitar tones on this record. You can hear this on pretty much any of the tracks on here that try to be heavy, which is not very many. Dance Kid Dance being one of them, Machine Gun, Safe and Sound. You don't feel that energy or that aggression as a listener. The riffs just sound really flimsy. What's even more frustrating, though, production-wise for me on this record, is Brent's vocals. Like, there are so many instances on this record, especially on these more pop, ballad-type tracks, where his vocals are just so overproduced. Most notably, the big single from this record, 365. Just listen to Brent's vocals. They sound so synthesized. That song overall, I do at least appreciate some of the lyrics, which I know were meaningful to the band. But stylistically, I mean, the band maybe has never sounded more robotic than they do on this song. That super cliche main chord progression, the song just having an overall lack of dynamics in general, the chorus blatantly recycling some of the same ideas that the band themselves have used in the past. This song to me came off like the band just wanted to recapture the same success that Symptom of Being Human had on the last record, and that actually is a song that I enjoy, but reusing melodies is just lazy. It especially sticks out to me when Brent says the words, "I wouldn't have to watch you disappear." You got the studio-generated synths that get thrown on for no reason after that first chorus. The track Dizzy is another brutal low point on this record, which, I mean, in the chorus, listen to that awful drum tone and the vocals, which are just way too echoey, which I guess is supposed to make the band sound like indie or something. I never understood this style of vocal production on this type of song. A lot of bands have used this. Just like that studio-generated vocal echo. It appears on multiple points on this record. The guitars are barely even audible in the chorus. The same style of vocal production reappears on the song Outlaw, which also has that like forced edginess and the studio-generated echo on the vocals, and it just sounds awful. Once again, there are some melodies in that track, especially in the verses, that just feel really blatantly recycled, whether it's from the band's back catalog or just from pop radio in general. The song Deep End is another one with some just overproduced vocals again. It's just dull, lightweight pop rock riffs. So glad that you asked. Another one with overproduced vocals. Another thing that this song does, and several do on this record, is just overusing the whoa-ohs. This modern world is at the bottom, Young Again, Machine Gun, Dance Kid Dance even has some distant whoa-ohs in the chorus that are just so unnecessary. So my biggest frustration on this record, hands down, is just production and arrangement-wise and mixing. Anything done on the boards I would say is my biggest frustration here. It's way too pop pandering. And when you hear that as a listener, it just makes everything sound so like disingenuous and again robotic. A song like 365, which does like on paper have some meaningful lyrics and meaningful subject matter, it's just to me it's canceled out because the band are using it to just try and get radio plays and get more money. It loses the genuineness, if that's a word, or the authenticity. I don't understand why the band can't just let their songs speak for themselves. That's something that they have done really well in the past. I mean, just listen to the song Call Me. This is a phenomenal ballad. I talked about it in obviously my album ranking, but that's just one example of the band just not needing to use any of these added extra production layers. Now we got to talk about the heavy moments on this record. And there's not many. Probably the biggest instance of the band trying to sound heavy is the track Safe and Sound, which was a single, and it is definitely one of the better songs on here, but it feels forced. It feels like the band sat down and said, we need at least one song that's going to harken back to the Sound of Madness or any of our earlier material, and then that's how this song was created. So they wrote an actual riff, I will give them that, and then put those pounding tom drums before it kicks in, wrote some edgy lyrics to fit the music, but that's exactly how the song comes off. It comes off like a attempt at recycling Sound of Madness era Shinedown. But for me, it does not recapture that at all. The lyrics, they sound like they try to, but they just don't deliver. Nobody's safe and sound, keep running your mouth. Like these are not very creative ways of trying to sound edgy. Even songs on Sound of Madness that you could say were created to sound edgy, they at least were somewhat creative. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about the production, but those songs also had genuine good production behind them to deliver that aggression that they were written to. The song does not, and I really feel that as a listener. Machine Gun is another one that it sees the band functioning in a heavier role, at least compared to other tracks on here. And it is one of the better songs on here. I like that ascending main chord progression that's also echoed in the verse vocals. It does actually feel dramatic and climactic. The whoa vocals are still pretty bad. But like this song at least has energy to it. One thing that bothers me about it that applies to, again, multiple tracks on here is that I think the vocal cadences get a bit repetitive. There's a few songs that do that, so I'm gonna come back to that point later. But as far as these more aggressive, energetic cuts, Dance Kid Dance, it's another like middle of the ground track for me, one of the better ones. It actually has a lyrical narrative to it, God forbid, instead of all this stupid conceptual shit. And I like what the song is about. It's about just the over-medication of teens struggling with mental illness. And lyrically, it is delivered in a rather creative way. When I first saw the title of Dance Kid Dance, I was like, oh God, what is this? But it actually works with the lyrics. Once again, I don't really hear any kind of intensity or aggression sonically on this song, but at least it has some energy to it. There's a few heavier cuts that don't do much for me on here. Like, I think Bear With Me is really repetitive. It brings in some really lightweight pop rock riffs again. The chorus uses a very bland structure that is used several times on this record. Very comparable for me to the track Wide Open later in the record. Again, just same chorus formula, some bland guitar ideas, a bit repetitive. And there was one lyric. There's a lyric on this song that I thought was especially awful that I wanted to just read to you guys. I'm going to read it word for word. Here it is. So, you got to take a shot. So what if you're rejected? Try to give a little, maybe get arrested. Throwing caution to the wind might be the answer, so pack it up and hit the road, tiny dancer. I guess I get the sentiment, like, take some risks if you want to feel alive. I think that's basically what the song is trying to say. But really, like, you're going to tell your listeners to go get arrested and then call them tiny dancer? Like, it doesn't work for me. It comes off way too goofy. And you can't really take the song seriously as a result. And lyrically, I appreciate the message of it because I do think that's a good message. But it feels like it's pandering in like an edgy type of way, especially to a younger audience. Burning Down the Disco is fucking awful. Like, it has a fitting, like, flamboyant type of a vibe to it. But to me, this song it sounds like the band wrote this song because they wanted to get on WWE again to be the theme song for a pay-per-view. And then there's the more middle of the ground type tracks that like aren't really trying to be heavy, but they're not really ballads either. And these songs most of the time are the worst ones on the record. The opener At the Bottom, it goes for just that goofy type of sound that the band has tried doing several times now. It reminds me a lot of that Eric Bass solo record that came out last year, which I actually did a review of. I'm just not into it. The sound in this particular mood that they go for, it doesn't come off like artsy or goofy or wonky in the positive way like the band intends for it to. It just, to me, it comes off really unrelatable. You can't identify with this song or take this song seriously just because of how weird it sounds. Imposter might be one of the worst songs the band has ever put out. I can't stand this fucking song. It is, notice how it is the same exact vocal cadence the entire time. In fact, there is even a solo in the song that literally just echoes that same vocal cadence again. As if singing in the exact same rhythm the entire song wasn't enough, the guitars have to do it too when the vocals take a break. And on this song, just the combination of trying to sound all angsty and just straight up mopey at times, and still having like that goofy nature to it, it just doesn't work. The song is an absolute mess, and it's unlistenable for me. Like I mentioned earlier, Machine Gun suffers from the same kind of thing. I like that song definitely a lot better than Imposter, but Brent is singing the exact same cadence pretty much the whole song, and it gets to be repetitive. This is something I saw coming, because if the band is trying to write a 18-song album, it makes sense that they're going to have less ideas presented in individual tracks. Because if they're going for maybe a 10-song album, they could have used maybe one cadence in this song and then this other cadence in that same song. Instead, they have to spread everything out, so the songs are just less versatile. I was also going to make that note on a lot of the choruses on here that they use the same formula. That very much is the case. I first noticed it on the single Searchlight, which is a song that I enjoy. I'll get to that at the end. But the way that the band kind of uses that same 4 bars, and bars 1, 2, and 4 are in the same melody, and then they use the third bar to switch it up. That happens on several songs on this record. And for me, that's an issue. I don't like this feeling of the band fitting all of their stuff into a specific template for a chorus. It feels uninspired, and in this big, long album context, it feels repetitive. Like I said, they do it on Searchlight, and then immediately after, they do the same thing on Bear With Me. And that song also has those awful, like, half-rapped cadences in the verses. No one ever said growing up that they'll never get it right, but that's life. So why you acting bitter? Why you run your mouth? Never mind the... On this 18-track album, there's a handful of songs that I kind of like. Back to the Living, that's one that I like. Right away, I like that the band dials down the production. You hear it on just Brent's vocals on the song. It just sounds like Brent. It doesn't sound like this doctored, overproduced, overly echoey version of his voice. I haven't lost my mind, but I still might. I picked up a knife in a gunfight. I had to memorize them all. And this is just a very straightforward song that actually works. I also, for the most part, like Killing Fields. At times it does have some of like that goofy sound that the band keeps trying to do over and over again, and it just doesn't work. But it doesn't, it's more reserved on this song, and the chorus of the track I actually think is great. Again, the production, a lot better, a lot more reserved, way less over the top, and the song speaks for itself a lot better. Searchlight has like that throwback Southern rock acoustic vibe that to me harkens back to something that maybe would have been on Leave a Whisper in a positive way. And this is maybe the one song on the record where I think the extra layers of production actually do kind of work. Not on the vocals. I do think the vocals are still overproduced on here, but all those layers that come in throughout the song of the Southern style strings and such, that does at least give the song a good continuity and a good progression. And the song establishes a mood, and it has a dance, and Machine Gun have their moments. But that's about all I like on this record. At the end, So Glad You Asked. It has more terrible whoa vocals. And the pilot is just, it's not terrible, but to me, it's just a very forgettable ballad from this band, especially in comparison. Overall, this album has a lot of issues. I'll be honest. It's maybe slightly better than Planet Zero, but not by much. It's way too long. It's way too overproduced. The band, they have a complete lack of edge on this record. There's very clear pop pandering. The songs are repetitive. They use a lot of the same ideas. I want this band to stop trying so fucking hard. Like, they don't need to try this hard to make good music. They proved that on their early material. And I am not one of those people who just wants bands they like to remake their classic albums. That's literally the worst type of fan. But Shinedown are proving that they cannot make a full length good album using modern ideas. I won't fully give up on them yet. I'll wait for the next record to see if I have to make that decision. But there are 2 duds in a row now. For all those reasons, I'm going to score this album a 6 out of 30. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe button for more rock and metal related content and album reviews. And please comment below your thoughts on this record, especially if you are a fan of it. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.